Hello and welcome to Primetime Pastimes, Educating Lauren. I'm one of your hosts, Steve, and with me, as always, is big sexy Gav. Say hello, Gav.
Hello.
Are we sure it's Gav? Because I'm not convinced.
He's looking too sweet. And of course, the woman of the hour is Lauren. Say hello, Lauren.
Hi.
Well, professional wrestling is, of course, the pastime that brings us all together. There's just one problem, and that is that Lauren has never watched modern wrestling. So join us as we mine the golden era, be ruthless in our dissection, give gratitude to the attitude, and maybe uncover some hidden territory as we educate Lauren. Today's show is an incredibly important one. Arguably the most important month in professional wrestling was July 1996, because we not only had this show, but we also had the infamous Austin 316 promo at King of the Ring. Things would take a little while to ramp up for Mr. Steve Austin, but it certainly didn't take that long for WCW to start making some massive changes. Before we deep dive into Bash at the Beach 1996, Gav, what do you know about this show? Do you remember it?
I remember it because everyone's talked about it for about a month. I was at college at the time,
Right.
So there was quite a few college mates that were well into it, and obviously I didn't see it live. But yeah, I got told, obviously, it was shocking and the most amazing thing I've ever seen and all that kind of stuff. And then I watched it probably a month or so later on a VHS recording, and I was like, yeah, pretty good. But the shock wasn't there for me live, but obviously we'll get into that.
We sure will, Gav. We sure will. Lauren, did you hear about this show prior to me putting it on our docket, or what?
So, not really. No, I think the first NWO promo is probably what I have always associated with the start of the NWO. The whole outsiders thing has never really sort of crossed my radar. I've heard, obviously, stories of the wars and them turning up at the door in a tank and all that kind of stuff. I don't know where that fits into this storyline.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
Oh, way later.
But yeah, when it comes to the NWO, in my understanding, it wasn't as gradual as this. It was like NWO showed up, that big promo happened, everything changed. Like the build up of Scott Hall showing up and then bringing in Kevin Nash, and then this big reveal that Hulk was the insider and outsider.
Well, spoiler alert for anyone who has not seen 1996's Bash at the Beach. Yes.
This whole little storyline wasn't sort of on my radar at all. The Hulk heel turn was, but I didn't know that this was how it happened. The iconic NWO promo was the start of that in my head previously.
Now, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but when you say the iconic NWO promo, are you talking the guys in the ring with the trash being thrown in, or are you talking the black and white, camera all over the place promo?
No, the black and white in the NWO shirts.
Yeah.
The promo that happens afterwards that you did tell me to watch again, and I completely forgot because Gav derailed me, making him look like this.
Like what? Gav was at this show. Right. So also mean that you haven't watched Scott Hall coming down the aisle or down through the fans and making his promo?
No, I did watch that one.
Okay. Tell us what you thought about that first before we get into the actual show itself.
So I think looking at it, knowing the context it was quite confusing. Like, I can imagine a lot of the fans were a bit like, what on earth is going on? Like, he was very... I don't know. It was a lot of seeds sown and not a lot of sort of content of anything else. And I think at the time, it would have been a very, very gripping story. And then when you see the highlights during Bash at the Beach of him saying, "Oh, I'm bringing someone big."
At the time, we didn't even know that Razor had left WWE when he turned WWF when he turned up on WCW.
I am going to go into that. No, I am going to go into that a little bit more in a few moments. But yeah, we didn't know. And that promo, just talk about the style of that promo for a moment. It is very much something that never happened. You never really saw backstage stuff at this time. A little bit, but not really. But to have people coming through the crowd was almost unseen. And to interrupt a live match, they never referred to him as anything other than "who's this guy?" It was done in a way that very much looked like it was off the cuff, and this was a real situation that was happening. Which at a time of wrestling garbage men and stupid gimmicks, it was absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah, it was.
So anyway,
it was really sort of realistically shot. I think the only, which may be me with a skewed view now, but the commentary and that being so, oh, who is he? Like, anyone who was watching wrestling at the time, I assume will have recognised him. I don't feel like the WWF, WCW crowds were that different that WCW fans would have gone, "I've never seen this man before in my life."
Well, if you watch that promo back, yes, they do say, "Who is this?" at first, before the cameras get a good look at him, and then they say, "Oh, what's he doing here?" So no, I think they do sort of they're trying to yeah, because I think that they're trying not to say his name, almost through the fear of not getting sued by WWF, because that was very much the presentation. But Larry Zbyszko very much reacts like this is someone that he knows very, very well, but hasn't seen in a long, long time. But anyway, we'll get into it. Let's do some facts first. Then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the build up to this very, 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 very important show. So this is another loaded pre-show with names like Rock and Roll Express, Fire and Ice, Billy Kidman, Eddie Guerrero, Lord Steven Regal, and the World Tag Team title match between Harlem Heat and the Steiners, all on a pre-show. So another massive pre-show. I didn't ask you to watch that one.
I was going to say.
But that sounds way better.
It's very difficult to find, and some of the versions of it are very, very jumpy. And after last time, I thought, I'm not going to subject you to that again. So that's why I didn't ask you to watch the pre-show. But I think the pre-show last time was valuable in saying, look what we could have had. But I think this time, with the exception of a few matches, they were putting their what they perceived to be their best foot forward. But we'll get into it. Larry Zbyszko came up with the idea of the name of the New World Order on commentary about 1 week before this. The show is the fourth highest rated WCW show according to Cage Match. Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Psychosis is the sixth highest rated WCW match of all time. A week before Scott Hall first showed up, WCW had its first ever ratings win over WWF. Hogan had been off TV since the alliance to end Hulkamania at Uncensored a few months earlier, and his next planned feud was actually going to be against Conan before plans changed, brother. Kevin Sullivan, the booker, is trying to look at the next big stars at this point, trying to grasp onto anything that he thought would be a big deal, including a young man called Damon Stryker. Any idea who Damon Stryker is?
Is that not Goldberg?
It isn't. It is Mr. Adam Copeland, otherwise known as Edge. I thought you'd know him. So anyway, WCW management didn't see anything in him, so they passed. But obviously, he picked up a big. Did you just get the joke I just said?
No, just felt that they passed on him.
I know, right? I said you think you know him,
No,
like his
just
theme music. Oh. But yeah, he signed a WWE, WWF development deal a year later. Anyway, that's all the facts I care about right now in that little portion. Gav, tell us what you know about the click and the curtain call.
Obviously, we never got to see it live because it was a house show. So
True.
no one, like, internet wasn't a thing. No one got to.
Pause the curtain call for a moment. Tell us about the click first.
It was basically the backroom politics group that they could literally book their matches, get people cancelled, take away careers. To be honest with you, that's what they were doing. They were stopping anyone that was outside of them getting anywhere. So like Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Razor, and Diesel, they were the main four.
And 1, 2, 3 Kid. Those are commonly
1, 2, 3 Kid. Yeah, Boltman.
Yeah, those are commonly considered to be the top 5. There are other people in there that.
Well, even sort of fair, Crush got in there in the end at one point. He was kind of clicky, so.
Crush, Jeff Jarrett, Mr. Perfect, Just Incredible, British Bulldog. There were all these people that were sort of in and out of the quote unquote clique, but the core 5 people are who you just mentioned. Are you aware of Just Incredible? Back then was the Portuguese man of war Aldo Montoya.
Yeah,
I saw him live. Do you remember I was telling you a couple of shows ago about the time I saw Giant Haystacks?
Yeah,
in Manchester. Aldo Montoya was on that show. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, they had a match to sort of. It was Razor and Nash had pretty much said, "We're done. We're going."
Well, let's talk about that. Explain to me. Do you know why they said that's it? We're done. We're going.
They had money.
Let's go with Razor first.
Yeah, they weren't getting paid enough, so they decided, we're done.
Partially, yeah. A lot of it is also for Razor Ramon's point of view. He wasn't far enough up the card that he thought he was warranted in being. The business was on a bit of a downturn, and he thought he should be further along in the main event scene than anyone else. He also asked for money, and Vince McMahon said no. And then he said, "Okay, don't worry about the money. Can I work some shows in Japan?" Vince said no. So yeah, that was the end of Scott Hall / Razor Ramon. He decided he was going to leave to pastures new. What do you know about the Kevin Nash situation in and around that time?
What I remember from various things is obviously Scott had said, "Oh, I've just had this deal from Ted Turner, basically, give me whatever I want," and Nash went, "Oh, fuck that! I'm having some of that in a bit. I'm doing the same."
Pretty much. The only thing I'll say is that he did go to Vince and he again asked for more money and a lighter schedule because he was not an old man, but he's a tall man. His legs are beat up and everything. He's older than. Yeah, and he wanted a lighter schedule. Was told it wasn't going to happen. He was sort of saying he would re-sign a new contract. He had a verbal agreement saying he would re-sign a new contract with WWF. That never came to pass. He promised Vince McMahon he wasn't going anywhere. And then next you knew, much like the way he came into the Federation, he went behind the back and got a WCW deal. Yep. So that's where we're up to. And now comes the curtain call. So do you remember what happened during the curtain call? Like you said, it was a house show, so we didn't see this.
End of the match, obviously, kayfabe was very much still alive.
What's kayfabe?
Basically, everyone thought wrestling. They weren't sure if it was real or not. No, but in the playground in school, all the kids were like, "It's real." Parents were like, "Nah, it's not." But we all believed it was completely real. There was no. I did. Loser. I honestly thought it was real to an extent.
That is what kayfabe is. Yeah. Believing the wrestling truth as reality.
So behind the curtain stuff was never ever shown. You weren't friends. If you were heels on TV, if you were friends on TV, you were friends like in real life. You couldn't change it. So if you're against another team, you couldn't be like friends behind the scenes. That wasn't real. So obviously,
famous example of the wrestling world strongly believing in kayfabe. I believe it was the Iron Sheik and Hacksaw Jim Duggan were caught together smoking weed, and both of them were released, not because they were smoking weed, but because they were bad guys and good guys in the car together, and that broke kayfabe.
You're not meant to even like each other, or let alone do anything together. But end of the match, they all hugged because they all knew that Scott was going.
Who's they all?
Michaels, Triple H. Was Waltman there in the 5 of them? No, it wasn't. It was just them 4, wasn't it? So obviously Hunter and Shawn Michaels was hugging Hall and Nash, and they were all pally. And because star power, Triple H took all the heat.
Yeah, just to go into that a little bit more, what had happened was we've lost Lauren, but I'm going to assume she'll be back in a second. What had happened was that essentially they'd got permission to do this by Vince McMahon, but I don't think he realized it was going to be as big as it ended up becoming, because people in the audience had cameras that were filming it and taking pictures, which they didn't foresee. They couldn't punish Razor Ramon and Diesel, i.e. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. They couldn't punish Shawn Michaels because he was the reigning champion at that point, so he was too important to punish. So they ended up punishing Triple H.
Punched him as well, to be fair.
Yeah, probably did punch him as well. Hunter Hearst Helmsley. They punished him and said, right, you were going to win King of the Ring, but we're no longer going to have you win King of the Ring. You're going to go back down the card, and we'll get back to it at some point. The person that did win King of the Ring, Stone Cold Steve Austin, which launched his career into the next level for a while. So that is the backstory of the Kliq side of things. What about Hulk Hogan and the genesis of the NWO idea? What do you know about that, Gav? So talk to us about where Hulk Hogan's up in his career.
Hogan believes it was his idea. It bloody wasn't. I know for a fact. He'll always say it was, but
no, he doesn't say it was his idea, but he does take credit for the success of it. Largely, what had happened is Eric Bischoff was trying everything possible to try and improve the WCW. One of the things he was doing, as we've mentioned, was trying to make it a more global affair by getting all these people from different countries and promotions involved. He was taking a lot of influence from ECW at this time. We're going to speak about that a little bit in this show. And he was also watching a lot of Japanese wrestling, and he particularly liked the way that Japanese wrestling was more real. And depending on who you believe, he also got the idea for an invasion angle from the UWFI invasion that happened a little while before this. So he had this idea in his head, he being Eric Bischoff, for a little while. As we've talked on this podcast, Hulk Hogan came across shortly after 1993's King of the Ring. He actually debuted at Bash of the Beach 1994. He'd been there 2 years at this point. It wasn't going well. He was doing the same old shtick. He wasn't bringing a massive amount of new fans. He was getting little ratings bumps when he was on the show, but he wasn't the groundswell of support that WCW had wanted. So about a year prior to this, Eric Bischoff had said to him, "We fancy switching it up and turning into a bad guy." And he basically threw him out of his house when this was suggested. So we saw that absolute travesty of a show, the Alliance to End Hulkamania at Uncensored 1996. Following that, he went away and did some filming, and a few weeks after, Thunder in Paradise, Santa with muscles this time, I believe, if I'm correct on that, and maybe even Three Ninjas, but I think I might come later. I'm not sure. Anyway, bad stuff, bad films. So what had happened was he had seen the NWO sort of swell of the outsiders showing up, and he makes a phone call to Eric Bischoff asking, "Hey, Eric, who is the third man?" And Eric tells him his plan, that he's going to be making it Sting. He says, "No, I'm your third man. I'm your Huckleberry." So Hulk Hogan steps into that slot and is geared up to be the third man in the promotion. Everyone close to him was telling him it was a mistake, to the point where 11 days before the show, he agreed to be the third man. Right up until the very last minute, people were unsure whether he was actually going to walk that aisle and be the third man, because he was having his agent telling him it was a bad idea. His family was telling him it was a bad idea. All the merchandise money, etc., that he was going to make was plaguing on him. He was also wondering, if I turn into a bad guy now, after claiming for so many years that I'm the ultimate good guy, what's that going to do for my kids? What's that going to do for the Make-A-Wish Foundation things that I do? All valid concerns. The way they got around this was Booker, Kevin Sullivan, said, "Come and spend the night at our house." And they basically locked him away until he drove him to the show. He turned up halfway through the show, and that was the only point that that Eric Bischoff was finally convinced it was going to happen. So much so that they had a separate plan of Sting being the third man if Hogan decided against it. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let's talk a little bit about the actual show now. What do you think about the start and the graphics, Lauren?
The graphics are horrendous.
Why do you say horrendous?
They're so cheap. Like, I mean, we've had some kitsch and sort of goofy graphics on the previous episodes we've covered, but these literally look like someone's copy and pasted something out of paint. On the other hand, I really like the beach set that they actually have in the arena.
So do I.
But that stupid little boat that's constantly floating across the screen on all the graphics, and no, it's not the vibe.
I did quite like the fact that when you saw the NWO, it was like a CCTV sort of thing where it was a grainy image. I quite like that, but yeah, generally speaking, not the best. They were actually doing quite well on ticket sales for this, by the way. I forgot to mention that. They weren't sure how the ticket sales were going to go, so they papered or gave away about 2,000 free tickets, and ended up turning away more than 2,000 people that would have paid. So,
wow,
yeah, doing quite well at this point. I always ask this: what do you think about the commentary?
See, I have overall, I think it's getting better the more we're watching, but I do have little bits in each match.
Why 4 of them?
Bits of commentary. So Mike Tenay obviously is part of the first match. I assume he's come up from Mexico and usually part of the lucha scene, because otherwise it was a bit weird having 4 of them on commentary, and I really don't like Iron Mike on comms because he's just got a weird voice.
So Iron Mike was only on the first match. It's worth saying, and yeah, you're right that he was excluded. How the thing? He was like he was a mix between a smart mark, so a fan that knows an awful lot about wrestling, and sort of like a newsletter person. So he wasn't specifically involved in Mexican wrestling and luchadors. He also would be brought in for these Japanese shows, he was basically the expert that they would bring in. Because you had Dusty Rhodes, who was essentially a character, Bobby the Brain Heenan, which is essentially another character, and then you'd have obviously Tony Schiavone, that was the play-by-play, and Mike Tenay would weave in and out for the next few years as the expert when you wanted the serious tech opinion. And he knew the name of all the moves, and he's a bit like JR with JR's obsession with where everyone went to college in football.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I say, overall, I think commentary is improving. That was, as we're starting to talk about the show, that was my biggest sort of note, is I wasn't a fan of him joining the commentary. I like the fact that obviously we get all the technical names and stuff like that, and I think the other guys bounced off him really well, like taking the piss, being like, what's that you saying? Like,
yeah, I agree.
But yeah,
I think he's the straight man.
I'm not a fan of his voice, so the amount he spoke during that first match, I was just like, I'm over this now.
He spoke the most because nobody else had any idea what was going on. To be completely honest with you, it absolutely popped me when Dusty Rhodes said, "Yeah, guillotine leg drop." I was about to come out of my mouth. So funny.
When they saw Hurricanrana and they popped like, "What's one of them?"
Well, yeah, but they hadn't seen it, Gav. That's why. And Bobby the Brain Heenan refers to Rey Mysterio Jr. as Rey Mysterio, and he also refers to it as the wrong guy. He calls Psychosis Rey Mysterio. So look at the perm on Rey Mysterio. So they don't have a clue. And why would they? It's people that they've just brought in. This we'll talk about the first match: Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Psychosis. They had just come off a run of very, very good matches at ECW, which is pretty much the reason why they're there. Other than Conan, obviously bringing them in, but they were just completely unknown. It was Rey Mysterio's third match, I believe, in WCW. It was Psychosis's debut, so not a clue. Absolutely not a clue. Did you notice that it's Rey Mysterio Jr., Mysterio, and do you know why?
No. I assume it's some sort of copyright beef.
Not really, actually. So Rey Mysterio was a legendary luchador, and he passed it down to his nephew, who's the guy currently playing Rey Mysterio. So he became Rey Mysterio Jr. Now, not going to go too much into Lucha Custom, but Rey Mysterio, much later on in his WCW career, loses his mask. So he's Rey Mysterio Jr. as part of the Filthy Animals with no mask. His face is just out and proud and all that lot. When they bring him to the WWE, they remask him because it's a different character. So that's why it's spelt differently. So it's a very, very different. It's a slight different character. So they can say, well, yeah, this isn't Rey Mysterio Jr. This is Rey Mysterio the Y. So there you go. That's why he's suddenly masked in WWE. And yeah, there you go. What do you think of the match itself, Lauren?
I actually really enjoyed this match. It's very much my kind of style of wrestling. It's the closest thing to sort of what I like nowadays that we've seen in these previous episodes. Rey in a half mask confused me to start with. But no, it was a really, really good match. It started off quite repetitive, lots of sort of holds and sort of simple stuff, but simple stuff done very well. It then suddenly gets a lot flashier. This is with I noted the fact that comms were then trying to explain what a Hurricanrana was, because obviously it's so new to them.
The closest thing they'd seen is the Frankensteiner, which Scott Steiner did innovate, but yeah, it's the closest they'd got to it.
Yeah. the outrage from commentary at some of the names that Mike's coming out with, like I just mentioned before, that really popped me. But yeah, Ray, I was just really, really impressed with Ray. I've never seen, obviously we know he can still go, but seeing him back in his heyday is something different. And some of the bumps and some of the knocks he takes, like he gets thrown onto the top rope, like it basically belly splashes the top rope, which looks disgusting. And then in one of his dives out the ring, he whacks what looks like his shin or his Achilles or something on the guardrail.
Yeah.
And he just carries on like nothing's happened.
He would go on to have a lot of leg problems.
Well, yeah. I suppose you look at our guys now, like Leon Slater and Javon Evans, will do exactly the same. It's like they're made of rubber. They just bounce and carry on. But no, honestly, this was probably the worst match for the pay-per-view to start with for me, because this was a high point. And the finish was something else.
Tell us what happens in the finish.
I don't even know. I'm going to be like Dusty Rhodes now and be like, I don't know what the names of all these things are, because we all know I don't. It's a lot of
he goes for a splash mountain, he being Psychosis. So he puts him up for basically like a powerbomb position from the top rope. And then Rey Mysterio turns that around and turns it into a Frankensteiner off the top rope. So it's not just a Frankensteiner off the top rope; it's a Frankensteiner in motion whilst he's being yeeted up. Incredible stuff. Incredible stuff.
Very, very impressive. Yeah, really, really solid match to start. Like I said, just to start with, I was a bit like it did seem quite repetitive and quite slow. And I was a bit like, okay, this is just a good, solid, like I said, simple done right was my notes at the start. And then it just...
Why did it get crazy?
Yeah, then it just went to a different level.
This is quite typical of what WCW would start doing on Monday Nitro, with the cruiserweights starting practically every show. When we were talking to Aiton Steen, when he was talking about Buffy, please check out that episode. He talks about the first hour of Monday Nitro being the best, and it is because of the influence of the luchadors. And that was often the problem with Nitro. You would have a fantastic first couple of matches. You would have a massive, massive, massive lull. You would have an okay main event, and then you would have an angle or something. But for wrestling purists, it never got better than the first few matches, and that was a continuous problem for WCW in general. Gav, you have said on countless occasions.
What?
That's my problem.
Yeah.
It started really good and then it just went to shit.
Well, Gav, you've said before that you tend to not like smaller wrestlers or smaller, techier wrestlers. What did you think of this?
They're better to watch. You can't lie. They are. If you're going to watch wrestling for the wrestling,
I do.
It's got to be.
I think there's a difference. Like obviously,
the level of talent of.
We'll get to later on. Dean Malenko. That's where you go.
Yeah.
All the techie guys are boring to watch.
Yeah. But
I could not disagree with you more.
When you throw in bits of like lucha and bits like
when you're doing stuff where you go,
it's a dynamic wrestler you enjoy, not someone who's strict with one type of wrestling.
I feel bad that I didn't recognise how good it was at the time, because looking at it now, you kind of go, the difference to that match to most of the card, it's like that's where the talent was.
Jumping ahead, you're not the only one. Jumping ahead a few months, there's a series of matches with Chris Jericho and Eddie Guerrero, and both of them have quoted those matches as being some of the favourites of the career. But the crowd couldn't give less of a shit because
they weren't ready for it. I don't think they were ready for it. So
exactly that. Much like Marty in Back to the Future. I can have an episode on that. They just weren't ready for it yet. So yeah, no, I get it. I just like to add one more thing. There was quite a bit of tech in this. It wasn't just flippy stuff, and I really like the way that Psychosis was putting Ray in a leg lock and then holding on the ropes. I always preferred that because it looks like you actually did get more leverage out of it than the whole abdominal stretch and the reaching for the ropes in a leg lock. It's I always preferred that, so I'll just shout that out now as something I personally like. Did you also catch that referee Jimmy was it Jimmy? Oh yeah, referee Jimmy Jett telling Psychosis to get his shoulder up, and because he was about to come down for a 1 count.
No.
So obviously there's a language barrier and rules differ, and Psychosis was in leg lock and he kept putting his shoulders down, and Jimmy Jett, the referee, kept sliding his hand under and then just tipping it up a little bit as if to say, "We're not in fucking Mexico now, pal." So yeah, another great bit of refereeing from that gentleman there. And let's move on to the Conan interview. I've never seen him look so uninterested about something he was so invested in.
Yeah, but compared to a lot of the other promos, it wasn't a bad promo because it was someone talking at a normal level.
Yeah, but like he brought both of these wrestlers that we've just seen into the Federation, and someone said to him quite enthusiastically, "Oh, what was that move?" Yeah, that was a Hurricane Rana out of a Splash Mountain. All right,
like
just looks so uninterested.
Every other day in the gym. That's why for him.
Well, of course it is for him, but I mean, come on, Conan, what's going on? He should be about it. That is a Conan joke. It happens in like a year, so don't worry if you don't get that. You'll get it later. Anything else we need to say about it? Or are we moving on to the match?
No, we're good.
John Tenter versus Big Bubba with Jimmy Hart in a Carson City Silver Dollar match. I think this is probably the best Carson City Silver Dollar match I've ever seen.
Never seen one before. So,
Lauren, why would they?
But no, I'm not being funny. That what we've just witnessed to this, is a piss take.
No, it really is. So before we get into the actual match itself, I'm very interested in what Lauren thinks about this because John Tenter, Earthquake, she's been high on him previously. Big Bubba, the former Big Boss Man.
Yeah.
That was Earthquake.
That's why I didn't say anything when we were watching it because I knew you'd go, what?
Okay, now.
Yeah.
Genuinely, so I have a thing at the minute now we've been doing this a few times, the amount of times you've gone, did you notice who it was? I'm always like questioning. I
don't snap my neck that much.
I'm always sort of questioning who someone may have turned into. Didn't pick up on that, but my first thing, bearing in mind, I am going to caveat this strongly with the video that we were watching was grainy, and it was cast from my laptop to the TV screen, so probably lost some quality as well. When he first came out the curtain, I thought Jake the Snake had hit rock bottom and put on a lot of weight, because that was genuinely what it was.
Weirdly, he has, but we'll come to that. This is the time where he has hit rock bottom and has put on a lot of weight.
I know this was sort of the time where he was struggling, and I genuinely thought he'd just like put on a shitload of weight because it looked like Jake the Snake.
I see what you mean there.
But I also, aside from the haircut, that gave me severe problems.
We'll talk about it in a moment, but go on, what else gave you problems?
Yeah, I gathered towards the end of that match that was part of the storyline and something had been going on there.
Story.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, it was... Bubba doesn't half bump for a big guy.
Oh, yeah.
I do still like Big Bubba.
Shocking.
He's definitely. I am questioning whether I do actually have a thing for uniforms though, because he's definitely better as Big Boss Man than he is now as Big Bubba.
I can't argue with that.
But yeah, I think the match was just a bit of a. It seemed to be a running theme with this show that it was just a bit chaotic.
Nobody ran in that match, Lauren. Please continue.
Yeah, it just seemed to be a little bit chaotic and like nobody quite knew what was going on. It was just two big dudes battering the shit out of each other for no apparent reason.
Jimmy Hart scaled that fucking pole though. Jesus.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Let's not talk about his pole technique. Gav,
right. Sorry, I was just going to say, Bubba taping up one wrist. Commentary acknowledging, saying, "Oh, Bubba, tape the other wrist, otherwise he's going to get out." And then
you can't get out with tape. It's that strong.
It was just seemed to be a comedy of errors. And now you've told me it's Earthquake. That has really surprised me because I have been impressed with both of those people, and this was shocking.
So what the heartbreaking? No, sure. What's heartbreaking about this is Earthquake had lost a lot of weight intentionally. His cardio had never been better, and it killed his career. Unfortunately, to jump forward a little bit, he was so unrecognizable. Because I'm not surprised you didn't realize it was Earthquake. I thought Gav might have filled you in, but it doesn't surprise me that you didn't realize it was Earthquake. In a year or so.
We have a bit of a rule of when we're watching these, we don't discuss because we know things will come up in here. So
absolutely
we try to keep the content for the podcast.
Good. So yeah, he sort of tanks his career so much so that when he goes back to the World Wrestling Federation in a year or so's time, he goes under a mask and calls himself Golga, and it doesn't work. And yeah, it's sort of the end of Earthquake as a major character. In about a year's time, or maybe even less than that, he's part of an angle with Rowdy Roddy Piper, which I don't think we'll ever actually cover, where Rowdy Roddy Piper is bringing together essentially a bunch of jobbers to try and take on the New World Order as his little team. And it's so unsuccessful. They dropped the storyline after one day. And an Earthquake was one of the guys in that as John Tenter. Again, unrecognizable, standing next to a bunch of jobbers like he's nothing. And it's like this is the Canadian Earthquake. He was a megastar at one point. So yeah, really, really sad. Gav, did you understand the storyline that was going on here? And if so, can you fill us in?
Not got a clue. I have no idea.
Did you understand why half his head was shaved?
Nope.
So I was talking about Dungeon of Doom on the prior podcast that we did about the Uncensored 1996. They were a group of wrestlers that were put together essentially to take on Hulk Hogan. One of these guys was John Tenter. He was the Avalanche at one point before WWF were like, we're going to sue you. So he became the Shark. And then he sort of disappeared and came back again. So we're moving on. Everyone knows we're moving on. The alliance to end Hulkamania was an absolute joke. And when Tenter does sort of come back, he has a fallout with the rest of the Dungeon and Doom members, and they try and take the faction in a slightly more realistic route. Big Bubba rejoins, and it becomes a little bit more serious. The Giant drops his goofy gimmick, and he's just like a big guy now. He's not like the son of Andre. Kevin Sullivan is a little less creepy. They're going a bit more, we're just regular wrestlers. We're just regular guys. And this feud is born out of that. And Ray Traylor, Big Bubba, shaves his head. And the whole idea is that John Tenter is so incensed by this, he's going to keep his head shaved half of his head shaved to motivate himself. So that's why he comes in with half a haircut, because that's his motivation. And don't ask me where the silver dollars come from, because nobody knows. It's just a ridiculous thing. And I don't know if you noticed that when they got out to the ring, clearly neither of them realized that the pole was going to be as big as it was, because there was no chance in hell anyone was climbing up it. No chance. They didn't even attempt to. And we talked about how Jimmy Hart was able to work that pole. Thank God he could, because otherwise, how was that match going to end?
Rocket up that pole.
I don't know how to put it. I was surprisingly happy with the ending of this match. Not just the fact that it had ended, but I did like the way it ended of Jimmy sort of Jimmy getting the coins, getting down, thinking he'd done sort of really good, and then realising it wasn't Bubba that was waiting for him. Little bit of selective hearing, like the referees. He just completely not heard the massive bump that had happened in the ring to realise that his mate was down. But yeah, for
could have been a lot worse. If it weren't for Jimmy Hart, could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, for such a shit show of a match, it was a good finish.
I don't disagree. And the use of the wrist tape
disappeared really quickly before the next match.
Yeah, I don't know if there was a delay, because they might have shortened it, but
possibly,
yeah. That poll was up during the pre-show as well,
right?
So I don't know. But yeah, like I was saying, there was tape in this match as well, despite the fact that we're using that wrist tape is going to be a focal point of the next match as well. What a silly! What was the point of that?
Someone get a whiteboard.
Someone get a whiteboard. Yes. Do we want to talk about this match anymore?
Nah.
Excellent. So we've got a where's Eric? Who's the third man? And Savage, Sting, and Luger promo. Anything you want to say about this promo? I like the fact they were all in face paint.
Yeah, it was a good little sort of Stinger wore the paint, so it's one of them, innit? So yeah, it got them together, I guess.
Lauren?
I hate Macho Man's voice.
Oh yeah,
hate it. It makes him sound like a cartoon gimmick. Like, there's just no.
So you don't dig it?
No, I can't. I just can't believe it, because it's just I don't know. It's too much. And then when Sting started going on about how the being nervous.
Oh, his was shocking.
A dry mouth, and gave him goosebumps all over his body. I was a bit like.
Not being funny. That was a little bit.
It hadn't, other than overacting, it hadn't been a bad promo up to that point. And then Sting started.
It was a bit uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie.
I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Medium length, short haired, brown Sting, or whatever we rephrase it as. Yeah, he's not for me.
No.
As soon as he stopped being Surfer Sting properly and was in this little transition, it's like, he's not found who you're going to
be. I like the aesthetics of colourful Sting.
See, this isn't even colourful Sting. This is a weird halfway house between.
Emo Sting. This is emo Sting.
It's my colouring. It's black with neon colours. Yeah. I like that, with the colourful face paint and the black pants with the brighting on. I like that. But then the character's just like meh.
He needed a reboot, and he was going to get one soon.
And it was one hell of a reboot.
Did you pick up on the thread going on about where's Eric Bischoff during this? Did you understand that?
Yeah,
I picked up on the fucking thread. You had no choice not to. Fuck me.
It was said an awful lot.
Sure was.
His family are watching this on pay-per-view, and even they're worried. Because
he's not here, and we don't know where he is. And
do we know why? Do we know why he wasn't there?
No.
No, it was. Didn't Nash and Hall kidnap him or something? Oh
They
well,
powerbombed him. And that made him go away for a little while. But I think he was back at the next Nitro, so not that much of a
Powerbomb made
while.
him disappear for a while.
he's
It
not
wasn't like a
wrestler.
magic
Powerbomb's
powerbomb. It was
hurting on
just
wrestlers.
yeah. I mean, I took a 4-round of the week and stayed down for like 10 minutes. So, you know.
Only wrestlers have the superpowers to survive moves.
Fair. Match 3, Diamond Dallas Page versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan in a taped fist match / Lord of the Ring match. What do we think, Lauren? Do you still love DP?
I just like Lauren's face when she saw it was Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Again.
I still really like DDP.
He's good.
Okay.
DDP is cool. He's an old man like me.
Jim Duggan gives me a headache. I don't understand it. Don't get it. I don't get the taped wrist. I don't understand what's going on and why is he so over? The crowd absolutely fucking love him.
Hashtag digging on Duggan.
I just don't get it.
No, that's fine.
I also, like you mentioned before, the tape being used again, especially so early in this match after we'd just seen it, I was a bit like,
yeah.
Come on, guys.
Look at your card,
Have we not got handcuffs or any, could we not have thought of something better?
To be fair, this was Hacksaw's gimmick at the time of having taped fist, which I've made it very clear I hated that gimmick. Well, it was his gimmick. So if anything, the previous match shouldn't have done tape.
Yeah, because obviously if his thing is having taped fist, then him pulling athletic tape out to tape someone's
athletic tape that can't be ripped. They just fucking ripped it in front of you, you knob. But never mind.
Gav's feeling some feelings about this.
Yeah. There were some spots in this that I quite like.
Tell me about that.
The seesaw in the ropes.
I knew that's what you're going to say.
I love it. It's so fun. Mm-hmm. I feel like if I haven't, I don't know whether I have seen him do it, but if I haven't, I feel like it's a very Liam Carr spot.
Do you know what it is? It's a very old Memphis spot, is what it is. It's
Liam definitely done that then.
If you ask Liam James will be all over it.
Yeah. But no, when it was going on, I could just fully see Liam Carr being there, trapped in the ropes, just like hamming it up, like, what's going on?
What I liked about that bit is that he wasn't just seesawing on the ropes. He rebounded off one rope, then rebounded a second way, and then he started the seesaw. It was great. Loved it.
Yeah, it was brilliant little spot. And Facebusters in general, I think look really impressive. And the draping Facebuster where his feet were, I think it was Duggan that was draped, I think.
Yeah, it was.
When his feet were on the top turnbuckle and then DDP just like slams his face into the mat. Looks so fucking good.
I'm glad you mentioned this because this is one of the only things that you liked about the Bret Hart and Roddy Piper match at WrestleMania 8. Just pay attention. I listen.
Facebusters, clearly.
Yeah.
I know what my finish is going to be then.
They look so impressive, and I don't know.
I almost made a very dirty joke.
I don't know whether people don't trust them or they're difficult to take or they don't seem to be used as much as they should do because they look like a vicious offense.
Lauren, do you know what I'd never do?
What?
Facebuster when my legs are dangling on the rope. Never in a million years would you see me do that.
Why?
I'd be
you can't put yourself on your hands.
I was like, no, that feels like a job for Ref Kyle.
I mean, yeah. But
Kyle can do that one.
Yeah, I just think like bulldogs and anything that slams a face into a mat just make it looks vicious.
It was a big guy doing it as well.
Yeah.
And DDP is a big dude.
Oh, he's deceptively big as DDP.
like it's almost like a cat fight sort of.
Grabbing the hair and slamming the face in.
Yeah. I feel like because you do see more of the women do it, especially now with the Devil's Kiss going on and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dripping Facebuster should be used more. DDP's selling, still top class, love it. And I really, really enjoyed this match until Duggan started taping his hand again at the end of the after the match. I was just like, what are we doing now?
Was this the first time that you've seen the diamond cutter properly?
Yes, I think so.
What do you think? Not a trick question. Because people say that the RKO can be done out of anywhere. Very much was the same with the diamond cutter. The diamond cutter was over.
Yeah.
But the diamond cutter was more popular than DDP for quite a while. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's a great move, great move, great move."
And that
so much so
did that for God knows how long.
Well, but that was a while off because that was when DDP started getting himself over / becoming more popular. Triple H actually around this time messaged DDP and said, "Hey, can I do your diamond cutter as a finish?" And he's like, "No, it's not."
You've got pedigree, chum. Fuck off.
No, that's mine.
Yeah. So I think that's probably the end of this match. Let's move on to the Giant and Sullivan promo and then the Horseman promo. Let's not talk about Benoit yet. We'll come back to that. Well, what do you feel about generally those two promos?
That wasn't too bad. He didn't shout. Neither of them shouted.
Arn Anderson's wasn't brilliant as promo.
Big Show,
in my opinion,
huge.
Big Show was he was taller when he was younger.
I know, but next to those two other people,
yeah, that helps.
He looks massive and makes them look like midgets. And then also Arn Anderson looks like a librarian.
He does a violent librarian. I have nothing but positive things to say about that man.
That was all I took from those two promos.
He's an unassuming, violent man.
It sure is. Great in the managerial role here because he's recently had his issue with his neck. Yeah, fantastic. You're right about Giant, even though you keep calling him the Big Show. You're right about the Giant because he's a thin boy at this point. So
the thing is, what I like with a lot, he's Paul White's big to the point without looking abnormal when he's big.
Yeah, we said this before, haven't we? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the guys.
Forceful.
Yeah, and he's just scary. Just someone that big is just scary. You don't see it very often.
After I watched back that one we did, and we talked about this, acromegaly or acromegaly is the name of the giantism disease that they both have. But yeah, obviously.
But the fact that he used to do like drop kicks and stuff. No
one
of that time ever did drop kicks ever.
You see, Andre the Giant would when he was a young man. If you ever watch, if you ever look at pictures of Andre the Giant, when he's 15 to 20 to 25, completely different looking guy, completely different, and he doesn't look dissimilar to Paul White / the Giant / the Big Show.
Right.
But again, the ravages of time and the fact that they didn't have the treatment for that disease meant that Andre just
tins a beer a day. He's definitely going to take it. So
he was doing that for the pain, though, Gav. It was very, very painful.
That's what I'm saying. That's the thing. It's like that amount of alcohol is definitely going to age you quickly.
One last thing I want to say about this. I absolutely love the fact Gene called Jimmy Hart a little twerp as soon as he saw him. The first thing you hear in that promo, you little twerp.
Gene definitely goes into business for himself in this pay-per-view, I feel.
Very entertaining, man.
He goes for his own shtick really well.
When you've got a shtick as big as that, you use it. Right. Nasty Boys versus Public Enemy in a double dog collar match. Probably the best double dog collar match I've ever seen.
I hope it's the only double dog collar match you've ever seen.
It was.
To be fair, I'm not sure. Probably not.
It was. that had no business being on that show at all.
I thought you liked chain wrestling.
That was shocking. Why would I like chain wrestling? Where are you trying to get that from?
I'm making a joke because like chain wrestling has got a double meaning in this case because they're actually using a chain with then wrist locks into an elbow, an arm, chain wrestling.
That is. But
what do you think, Lauren?
I have seen a lot of grim, twisted, unnecessary, nasty shit in a ring. And watching...
We don't work for them anymore.
Shots fired.
Yeah, I have seen death matches. I have seen people lose pints of blood. I have seen people literally spurt blood out of their head, and I have been less uncomfortable than I was watching that match.
That table was not gimmicked at all.
No, it wasn't.
Like, I mean, I was quite glad of the fact that for half of it you couldn't see much because the split screen. We all know I love it. I love a split screen. Yeah, couldn't see much, thankfully, but the unprotected headshots, the mismanagement of the chains, the Nasty Boys just seemed reckless. It was like, I said to Gav, I was like, they look like they look like indie dudes who have just are way too old. They've got a beer belly now, and they're just still trying to stay relevant by doing mad shit.
What, you
We
mean
don't work for that company anymore. Right. Well, before I go off on a tangent here, so are you aware? Because this is obviously there's an ECW connection here, and some of what you were saying is often talked about in reference to ECW. Exactly what you said is pretty much paraphrased on what everyone has always said about ECW since the dawn of time. And in many ways, the Nasty Boys are the sort of prototype versions of Public Enemy because there's a lot of similarities there, and Public Enemy are very much the sort of prototype of the Dudley Boys. There's like a Pokemon evolution going on there, so it's an interesting match to watch for that reason. But yeah, it's not for me.
I can appreciate the fact that the Dudley Boys have sort of evolved from the Nasty Boys. You can see some of the inspirations and whatever, but yeah, it wasn't a nice watch. The chain whips looked horrendous. Soon as that table didn't break once, and it didn't just not break, he bounced off it. That table should have never been touched again.
It reminded me of Eddie Dennis versus Mandrews from Progress.
Yeah.
It was so upsetting.
Yeah.
But it became a thing that they had to break it.
No. So he doesn't understand the trauma of that match.
But I can kind of see in the tag match, they were kind of thinking the goal is to break this fucking table.
Oh, 100%. They wouldn't let it go.
Yeah.
No.
But no, I think commentary said something at the end of, oh, what a mess, or whatever, and I was like, a mess is right, because that was just shocking.
So, character-wise, and I suppose generally, how have you landed on the Nasty Boys? Because I know you've been up and down and up and down. This is kind of the end of the Nasty Boys. It wouldn't be too long now before we say goodbye to Jerry Saggs as an active wrestler and Brian Knobbs goes on as a single. So where would you land the Nasty Boys as far as what you've seen so far?
So I think when I first saw them, I was a bit unsure. And then I was like, no, actually, these guys are quite fun. They're a little bit sort of unhinged. They gave me sort of, I could see Hardy Boys inspirations in there of just being a bit mad and having fun.
You also mentioned Dean Ambrose at one point.
Yeah. I love how you remember what I've said more than I do. But yeah, I think overall, I feel like they are probably, if they were in there with a really good team who knew how to utilise them, I feel like they would probably have been capable of putting on a good match. But in general, I just think, no, they're not. I think the idea was there, the execution wasn't right. And I think that's probably why it evolved so successfully to the Dudley Boys, because the idea was right, it just wasn't executed very well.
They didn't have the talent to execute it.
This is the first time I've seen Public Enemy, and genuinely wondered whether DJ King had sort of slid onto my TV screen with all the purple pants.
Well, he was watching at this time. We've established that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might have bought the purple pants at this point. We don't know.
DJ's purple WCW pants are slightly infamous. Sorry, that wasn't even meant to be a pun.
Lies.
Come on now, Lauren. You know how I feel about puns.
But yeah, this is the first I've seen of Public Enemy. But if they're a sort of slight improvement on the Nasty Boys, I can totally see where the Dudley Boys have come from, because that sort of fun-loving, not taking themselves too seriously, but being able to do the job.
Why did the band not sue them for the name?
I don't think they cared. Another thing you've got to bear in mind about ECW is they would take so many chances, and even WCW really at this point. They were using licensed music willy-nilly, or Milli Vanilli, and WCW weren't much better. WCW were using blatant rip-offs. The version of this that I sent you was I think it was the actual WCW version rather than the WWF WWE version. So did it have the Smells Like Teen Spirit knockoff for Diamond Dallas Page?
Yeah, it did.
There you go. Yeah. So
you know, pay for that.
They did not pay for that, because it wasn't It Smells Like Teen Spirit. It was something very, very similar. But yeah, they probably didn't care. And no. ECW definitely didn't care, and nobody cared about them either. Multiple, like Billy Corgan, who is the lead singer of the Smashing Pumpkins, has said on record he knew that a lot of the industry people knew that they were using their music, but they quite liked it, so they didn't care, and nobody sued them.
Well, he was a massive wrestling fan, obviously, and ended up...
Well, he owns a promotion now, yeah, exactly, yeah.
So,
yeah.
He loves wrestling.
Same. So let's move on. Let's move on to Dean Malenko versus the Disco Inferno for the Cruiserweight Championship. Probably Disco Inferno's best match.
I fell asleep, so I can't comment.
Understandable.
I didn't.
Lauren,
I may as well have done.
I feel like you're going to say something similar.
Yeah. I'm just trying to read my notes. I've written far too many notes for this, but I didn't think I thought this much of this match. To start with, what sort of a name is Disco Inferno?
Disco Fever!
Right. I understand a lot of people have mad names and stuff, but Disco Inferno isn't even a person's name. It's a thing.
Yeah.
And also, it's the 90s, not the 70s, and I don't get it.
Yeah. The first near fall from the Brainbuster should have been the finish. Just should have been the finish. And I can back that up. The longer the match goes, right? So
there's logic here.
There is logic here. So I don't know if anyone's watched Unreal yet, the new season. I haven't.
I don't watch any of it.
There is a clip of John Cena, and he's talking about why are we fighting? The why is the most important thing of the match. And this match seems to be, that makes me think that. I was like, why is this match happening? And after listening to commentary, it sounds like Disco Inferno interrupted his match.
Pretty much.
And that's it. So there's no beef, there's no bad blood, he's just a bit pissed off. So surely a quick brainbuster, pin him, done. That would have been a fine match.
I hate the fact that I'm going to say this. I actually know the answer to this. So basically, they were getting ready to take the championship off Dean Malenko. Great champion. His gimmick was that he would just have wrestling matches, decent wrestling matches with everybody. That was pretty much his gimmick at this point in time. He would be the workhorse. He would be the guy that you put in to get other people over at a time where the cruiserweight division isn't quite where it should be. He was sort of like the linchpin. So they'd keep putting people involved, and they would use Dean Malenko to try and build up other talent by having good matches with him. On the flip side of that, Disco Inferno, perennial mid-card. His gimmick was less about the fact that he was obsessed with disco and more about the fact that he was a silly goose. No, I'm going to say silly goose because he would do moves and he'd be more obsessed with dancing and more obsessed with his hair, and he would lose big matches because of this. And you see little elements of this in this match because he'll do that and then he'll quick go down for a cover. So this entire match was a way to make Disco Inferno a slightly more credible threat, but they didn't want the title belt anywhere near him. But it was the way to make him a credible threat. I think it was a week or two later, Rey Mysterio beat Dean Malenko for the Cruiserweight Championship, and we are off to the races, and that division gets super, super hot. But yeah, it was basically they were using Dean Malenko because he's a fantastic worker and could get a good match out of everyone, and he got an okay match out of Disco Inferno. Have I told you my biggest sort of thoughts?
Who was trying to push Disco Inferno? Who's really because it's stupid.
They weren't just trying to push Disco Inferno. They were trying to see. They were trying to see what the next big thing were going to be. We talk about NWO on this show.
On pay-per-view.
Well, that's where most people watch. We talk about NWO on this show, but as I mentioned, we're also trying to push the cruiserweights. We're also trying to push the fact that everyone's from different. Everyone's from different areas of the world. We're trying to push Conan a little bit later. We're trying to push Disco Inferno now to hopefully get something out of him a bit later. It was the equivalent of throwing shit against the wall and seeing what would stick. And it so happened that they didn't need any of that other stuff to stick because NWO was incredible. But they were trying so many different little things. Every single match.
I can understand reasonings for every other match on this show, like that.
Except the John Center and Big Bubba. I have no excuse for that.
But at least there was some sort of at least that match made sense.
Lucy shaved his head. It was something a bit more.
There was a bit of storyline going on with it. This literally felt like it should have been a house show. It was like it was a test of can you hang with the big boys? No, you can't. Okay, we won't do that. Why is that happening on a pay-per-view? That was a house show.
Yeah, it was proved that he couldn't hang with the big boys, and he didn't really get a major opportunity. He kept coming back and doing little things, but he never got a major opportunity. My sort of thoughts on Disco Inferno is he's one guy that I think would have been a much much better manager. I think had he have been a manager, it was fine. But
it just felt like a really weird mismatch, and then commentary slated him most of the way through the match, taking the piss out of him for being too busy dancing and blah blah blah. And then after he'd lost the match, was like, "Oh, he was so close. He's gonna be great."
Yeah, he's gonna be.
Well, that was the whole point of it.
Yeah.
I will say that there were some elements of this that I really really enjoyed. I love the Malenko's springboard leg drop onto Disco. I thought it was absolutely incredible. Not seen that in years. He did a springboard with one leg off the middle rope and then did a leg drop. Absolutely incredible. Love that. And everything looked like a struggle. Even struggling with the clover leaf at the end. And I feel like everything should look like a struggle if you're trying to set someone up.
The only thing I'll say is Dean Malenko is not a man of 1,000 skulls, though, is he?
You take Dean Malenko's name out of your mouth, because I have nothing but love and respect for that man. I honestly, I was in the car with was it Matt Brooks or someone? It was someone that was talking about who everyone's favorite wrestlers really were, and he said something along the lines of, and let's be honest, no one's favorite wrestler was Dean Malenko, and I just went,
uh-oh. I like the boring ones. Sorry.
Give me Dean Malenko and Lance Storm, and I'm a happy boy. Right. Do we need to talk about any more about that match?
Nah.
Here we go. This is the one we're waiting for. Steve Mongo McMichael with Queen Deborah against Joe Gomez in Joe Gomez's only pay-per-view singles match. It was also Steve Michaels' debut pay-per-view single match and third match that he'd ever have. Go on, Gav, what do you think?
It was just crap.
See, I thought you were dressed up as Mongo McMichael today. You just needed to hold a little dog. And I thought, okay, he's going from Steve.
There's not a cat McMichael somewhere.
Yeah, don't use a cat. I'll not say that enough. So go on. Any thoughts at all on this?
I think I'd switched off. I was just waiting for the end payoff because I was just like, yeah.
Okay, we'll start off slightly different.
You can tell he was green as hell, and they were just putting him over.
Who are you talking about? Which one?
Well, the ex-football Chicago Bears. That's all they kept saying.
Bears.
If he was a lineman, he'd be dead now. Shut up.
I was going to say, do you understand that Steve Mongo McMichael was a very, very, very famous football player?
Yeah.
Excellent. Not a lot to say, really. He just joined the Four Horsemen at this point.
Well, that's a faction of talented wrestlers. What the fuck?
But see, Ric Flair's commented on this, and he said he thought Mongo was one of the best Four Horsemen because he treated life like he was a Four Horseman, and he believed the hype, and he used to party really hard. Whereas people like Paul Roma or Sting or anyone didn't fit in that mold whatsoever.
I think they were looking for the Goldberg, and they didn't find. So it's that kind of you've got that killer thing. You got to, and Goldberg luckily hit it for him, but they kept trying. I think for a few years to find that Goldberg. And he definitely wasn't it.
So they wouldn't have to wait too much longer.
No.
Do we know who Deborah was?
Steve Austin's wife.
Steve Austin's wife. Did you know that, Lauren?
No.
Lauren, what do you think I hated about this match more than anything? Because I have a feeling you might get it.
The dog.
I loved it. Come on, I love the dog. Wasn't Pepe, but I still love the dog. Was it Fifi? Pepe's the dog he has on commentary, but that was a different dog. This is not dog related, I can confirm.
What did you hate?
Tell me how they both looked and what gear they were wearing.
Yeah, it was quite difficult, to be fair.
See, this was one of my. I'm surprised the pair of you are sitting here completely slagging this off.
Why? It's awful.
Because I thought it was what you expect of a stereotypical wrestling match. If someone had never seen wrestling before and you showed them a still of that match, they would go, absolutely, they're two wrestlers.
And you could show stills of this match all the time. It'd look great.
Two big dudes, long hair. But I didn't think it was that bad of a match. It was slow.
To be fair.
It was steady. But it was basic.
Mm-hmm.
But
very, very basic. It's what
But it was like a catalogue of the moves you would learn in training. You had Like, it was
She's on a
shock.
pay-per-view.
So was the previous match.
I love the previous match.
I guess.
You've made me that mad that the cat is now shouting at me for making too much noise. But yeah,
no,
when we're comparing
I think
to other matches on this card, I'm like, it was. I can't say clean because there definitely were missteps that you could see how green they were, but it was okay.
I've got to admit,
you're right. That the power review have both just gone, nah, this was shit. Because when we compare it to some of the other stuff we've been watching, this is like a very basic, okay, acceptable match that we would sort of, if our new guys on the British scene had put on that match, we'd go, you did all right. You know what you need to work on.
But you're not in front of God knows thousands of people on the paper.
I'm with Lauren on this. I'm with Lauren on this. I think the reason why I've come down so hard on this one, whereas I haven't.
That's why.
Probably.
No. It's because the previous matches that we've talked about which were awful, I've seen those people in better matches.
Yeah.
This is the very best Joe Gomez match. This is the very best Steve Mongo McMichael match, with the exception possibly of his match with the British Bulldog, which was also shit.
Then that's fair. If this is the best that they get, but obviously for me, looking at it as an outsider, no pun intended again, as someone who doesn't know these two wrestlers, yeah, I agree with you on the gear thing, and I think I flag it in not the next match, but the match after as well, because Sullivan's got yellow trunks on when there's yellow turnbuckles, and that really hurts me.
Saying Kevin Sullivan looks like a turnbuckle.
Yes.
Excellent.
Is he not? Because he's the booker, isn't he?
He sure is.
Oh, he knows what colour those turnbuckles are. Oh, that's wound me up even more now.
Captain Turnbuckle, they call him.
But yeah, I just think I agree. The gear, there should have been. It is annoying when you can't tell the difference between them, especially when it's two people who are so new and they're not sort of.
And big and tall with long hair.
Yeah,
both long hair, both similarly tanned. Yeah, you couldn't tell them apart.
We've had an epidemic of it over here for a while. I think they've gotten a lot better for it now, but there was a lot of guys in black singlets with brown ginger beards that were bald. And
true.
There was about 7 of them at one point. So yeah, I don't think the match was as bad as Gav says when you compare it to some of the other stuff we've watched. If that's the best that they get, then I get the negativity. But as a standalone match, it's okay.
I've got a lot of baggage about Steve Mongo McMichael because he is a lovable doofus, or he was. He's recently passed away. He's a lovable doofus, and it's sort of become funny to take the mick out of him because he couldn't wrestle. But with that being said, I stand by the fact that I do think he was a decent horseman because he did fit into that mold, and he brought the bravado and everything else to it. But he couldn't wrestle. This was as good as he was ever going to get. He's a former professional football player. What do you expect? You know, it's not his forte. Yeah. Let's talk about Gene perving on woman and the Ric Flair interview. First of all, do you know who woman is?
No. See, that was going to be my first question. But firstly, Gav, can you turn your light on, please?
Oh.
Because we're both getting...
Yeah, I am starting to fade away, aren't I?
God damn it, Gav.
Yeah, that was my first note.
Wait. Let's wait till Gav gets back. And it goes crashing down and it hurts inside. Okay, it's back.
What was that?
Well, that wasn't the light I meant, but it'll do. But yeah, that was my first question, is why is she called woman?
Yeah, basically blatant sexism, but as a character trait, Ric Flair was like, woman! So that is woman. That is Nancy Benoit. That is Kevin Sullivan's wife at this point in time.
Okay. So everyone else just then continued to call her woman after Rick did.
Yeah, that's what her actual name was. If you were to buy merch and if you were to get the collector's cards, if you were to look her up, she is called Woman.
Yep.
Yep.
And it was okay, apparently. But there you go.
Yeah, Rick in that promo.
It was Rick that started it, but he was certainly one that went with it. But because she was with Doom originally as well, I think it was like, oh, look at this, who's this woman? But yeah, Rick rolled with it, not Rick rolled, you know what I mean? Woman, and honestly, a great character woman, especially when she was with Kevin Sullivan.
She's more annoying than Vicky Guerrero. That's
telling you,
great, and she doesn't stop
the whole match.
Well, we're not talking about the match yet. Let's just talk about the perving.
The perving. I don't know though. It was pretty much reciprocated. Not gonna lie.
I think that is Gene Money.
Gene Money.
That's because I was watching a promo from Gene Money.
Yeah, it was.
Talking
Pretty
to
sure
AI
that was his nickname.
Highly amusing. What's his name? Gene. Mean Gene.
Mean Gene Oakland.
Oakland.
I thought you meant Gene Money then, and I was like,
yeah. No,
Mean Gene Oakland.
It's it didn't come across as Gene perving. It came across as
he actually seemed a bit sort of shy with it as well. To be fair,
it came across as scripted woman hits on him.
Yeah.
I bet he scripted it as well. The dirty dog.
Probably. But no, I actually quite liked the sort of weird little dynamic there until Rick took over and was clearly on stupid sexy drugs because that man.
A lot of fucking drugs.
You could always tell when he didn't care about a character in a storyline. He would just go off on weird tangents. We'll get into that match a little bit more later, but yeah, you could always tell. Yeah, and the comments at the end of talking about pole vaulting competitions. What a sex joke.
I just can't stand Rick.
I understand. What do you think about Miss Elizabeth? That was a slightly different side of Miss Elizabeth that you normally see.
What, you mean the one where she actually said a couple of words instead of none?
Yes, that is it, and slightly more ho-ish.
Yeah, definitely a little bit from the. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I thought she was very reserved compared to Woman.
Like, in WWF, she was like Princess Diana.
Yes, she's still like the way she jumped up on the ring skirts and everything was so like.
Well, we're talking about the match now, aren't we? So I might as well just talk about the match. Ric Flair with Woman and Miss.
The promo, so there's nothing else to talk about.
Okay, no, it's fine. I was just trying to.
You've got something specific you want to say about the promo?
I was just trying to picket fence it a little bit, but no. Well, let's talk about it. So, Ric Flair and Woman versus Miss Elizabeth and Conan, because we haven't talked about what the match is for the US title. So let's carry on. What a bump from Miss Elizabeth. Would almost never bumped. Almost never bumped. So that was a big deal.
Unlike you.
Unlike me. Are you trying to say I am a big deal? I don't understand what that was.
You bump a lot, I think.
Oh, right. I was going to say, like, what? Unlike Steve, she's not a big deal. So what? I'm a big deal. I don't get it. Yes, I do bump a lot. I bump.
Like your ego's gone.
No, it wasn't. I was just like, I don't understand what you're trying to say here. Makes no sense to me.
You've taken one too many bumps. I think you've got concussion.
Oh, I got to have so many bumps. I bumped twice this weekend. Too much interference at the end of this match that made the referee look utterly dog shit.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know what to take about this match.
so obvious.
Too much
So
screeching.
He pulled him towards the ropes to then climb. Like, as a ref, if someone pulls them towards the ropes, you're instantly going to be like, why did you do that?
Yeah. Honestly, not a lot to say about this match, really, other than that. But yeah, it totally buried the ref.
It was Flair trying to get himself over yet again. That's all it was.
Triple H was my notes. I am very Grinch on Ric Flair. He's bumping from a slap.
At this point, he's taking the piss out of anything he can.
The submissions that he puts on look shit. Like, I'm also really confused why he tends to bump on his side. I've never seen him take a flat back bump.
Yeah, I don't know. I just one of those things that he does.
But yeah, I just hate him, and I was quite disappointing because I like Conan.
Yeah, this wasn't. I mentioned at the top of the show that Conan was supposed to be in a program with Hulk Hogan. That's not what happened. He would go on to flounder a little bit for about a year. Yeah, not ideal where Conan is currently or where he is for the next year or so. Ric Flair hates this feud, and he didn't really think that Conan was on the same level as him, which is a shame. Really. Well, Conan was a megastar in Mexico, so it's a shame.
He could also wrestle a heck of a lot better. That's the thing. He was upstaged with the wrestling. He was upstaged. That's what he didn't like.
Just a styles clash, just different types of styles for me. I love both these performers, but it was fine. It wasn't the worst match on the card, but the two women getting involved utterly shit on it for me.
And the way they reacted to the kicking the balls as if they'd never seen it ever before. You're like, really? Yeah. Like, okay, no, exactly. Fair
enough. Okay, so that is the end of that. Let's go on to the next promo thing. Gene Okerlund eavesdropping, saying it's something of a riddle. It rings in the back of my mind.
He's heard the voice before.
What's all that about? Yeah, stupid, sexy, ominous. Bit too much for me. That it's almost telling the hand that it's going to be a big guy. But
in hindsight, this is the thing. I think if at the time when people were watching it, because Hogan was so babyface, they never even suspected it.
Oh, never in a million years. We'll get into it in a minute, but yeah, never in a million years they would have put two and two together. Right, time for a disclaimer. So we are about to talk about the real life murderer Chris Benoit. Due to the nature of this podcast, we will be talking about this role in the match. We're not going to be talking about the crimes he committed. If this is not something you're comfortable with in hearing, please fast forward a few minutes to the next match. So we got the Giants and Taskmaster versus Arn Anderson and Chris Benoit of the Four Horsemen. Giant is the champion, but they decided they didn't want a championship match on this card because they thought it might take away from the main event, which I understand. So, Lauren, what do you think of this match?
I honestly don't really have a right lot to say about this, considering the people who were in it. It should have been a bigger deal, and I think the fact that they didn't want a title match, they should have just not done it. Basically, I don't think it did a right lot. As I mentioned before, Sullivan's yellow trunks against the yellow turnbuckle pads really irked me. Sullivan also reminds me of the Wizard from The Wizard of Oz, which doesn't help my opinions of Kevin Sullivan.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. Right. So, Kevin Nash played a character called Oz, right? So TNT, the company that owns, not the company, one of the branches of Turner Broadcasting, owns the characters from the Wizard of Oz back in this day. So they licensed a character called Oz, and it was Kevin Nash in a
the genie, wasn't it?
He was. I don't know what it was. He He was basically in a big green cape, and he had a big tall hat, and he wore a beard to the ring. And Kevin Nash played Oz, the character. His voice was most of the time Kevin Sullivan. So he was a Wizard of Oz in a way.
Well, he looks like the weird, creepy dudes that they have play the Wizard of Oz.
I get it.
Other than that, the only thing that particularly stood out to me in this match was towards the end where Arn gets like slingshotted into the turnbuckle, which knocks somebody down off the turnbuckle. It just all looked really awkward and stunted. And that was the only thing that hugely stood out, other than the general chaos yet again.
Like I say, this is just before Arn Anderson's big injury, so he's practically a manager anyway at this point. But yeah, not a lot of meat on the bone for this. Really, it was twofold. This was to continue the storyline, which I'll get into in a moment, of Chris Benoit, Woman, and Kevin Sullivan. That was a story that was sort of ongoing, which I will talk about in a moment. But also, Kevin Sullivan was given the ultimatum of, look, you can either continue wrestling or be the booker. You can do both. So this was a way to get him from transitioning into an actual booker full time rather than being an on air talent. Because he'd been wrestling a long time at this point. He wasn't physically the match of many people, and the aesthetic wasn't there. And also he wasn't as good as he used to be. So he transitioned. So what happened? Have you ever heard of the story that Kevin Sullivan booked his own divorce?
Yes.
Tell us roughly what that means.
Well, didn't he sort of bring Benoit into the fold, and he put them in an angle together in kayfabe wrestling, and they were traveling together all the time. So inevitably, they fell in love for real because Sullivan put them together.
Exactly that. It became a ridicule.
Intended, but obviously it happened. If you're on the road together all the time, that kind of stuff can happen.
Exactly that. So yeah, this is what happens, and not long after this, Woman and Chris Benoit would get together. So yeah, that became a bit of ridicule for a very, very long time. So this is that angle, and we're in the middle of that right now. Not a lot else to say about this match, really. Stop start, like Lauren said, didn't really need to be there. I understand having the Giant on there, and I'm not even sure I could think of a better way to utilize him other than a main event title match.
Yeah, there was because you want him on the show as your champion, but you don't want him to steal the show. So it kind of worked. He didn't steal the show. So
he didn't. He certainly didn't.
That's the thing.
Factual.
It was Sullivan.
One of the nondescript big dudes that
Sullivan got beat up for most of the match, and it all descended to the "don't beat him up anymore" segment, really.
But yeah, I also think a lot of. I know we're coming on to the main event now.
Yeah.
And without ruining my thoughts from the main event, I think the chaos that goes on throughout the whole of this show affects how the main event pans out.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. So the main event is the Outsiders. Didn't have names before this show, but during the show we find out that it's Scott Hall and Kevin Nash versus and a mystery partner versus the team of Macho Man Randy Savage, Sting, and Lex Luger. Just before we get into the meat and potatoes of this match, first time seeing Michael Buffer, Lauren? The ring announcer?
In a wrestling ring, yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Michael Buffer, he genuinely is one of the best to do it.
Did you expect to see him?
No.
Okay.
But then with how big of a moment this was
Well, planned to be, obviously.
with how big of a moment WCW sort of expected this to be. It is, looking in hindsight, it isn't surprising that they've got someone of that caliber in, because it just adds to the pomp and circumstance of sort of the caliber of the event.
Are you aware that this wasn't a one-off, and he is a contracted person for WCW for the next 5 years?
No.
Yeah, he would come in for the big events. Usually, only do 1 or 2 matches per pay-per-view card. He'd also come in for Nitros if there was a big match on Nitro. So, proper utilised was the buff.
Not a bad idea, really, though, just to sort of showcase your main event.
Yeah, great idea. Great idea. Right, let's talk about the actual match itself. Go on.
The recap video beforehand, I thought was great.
Talk about the recap video. Okay.
The montages of sort of seeing Scott Hall first appear, and the little nods of him being like, "Oh, I'm going to bring someone big," and the way that was all sort of shot and put together with like the newspaper headline style clippings and stuff. I thought that was, considering when you look at it in the context of the rest of the graphics and everything else that we see, that was brilliant. And that
concise and to the point.
Yeah, that had clearly taken a lot of thought, more than most of the other stuff had.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Great package. Anything else that you want to talk about before we talk about the actual match?
I don't think so. Just that there's been so much build up for it. Like every single match during it, there was mention of this match. I think it was, what match was it? Was it the Disco Inferno match? No.
We're talking about it all the time.
Yeah, but there was one match where they genuinely didn't talk about the actual match at all. Oh, there we go. It was the Disco Inferno match. There was more comms about the 6-man than the match that was going on. But yeah, it was sort of constantly mentioned throughout the thing, alongside the, "Oh, where's Bischoff?"
Yeah, I mean, it's worth noting that as far as actual stakes go on this match, there aren't any.
No.
There's no stakes been predetermined. It's not a case of if these guys win, something negative happens. There's just absolutely no stakes.
It's going to be a hostile takeover if they win.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything.
No, but that's the...
Comms are painting it out like...
It's the end of WCW if the outsiders win.
Is tomorrow's Nitro just going to be a test screen? And what happens now that they've won? And it's a bit like... There is no, it's not a loser leaves town, or like...
No, exactly that.
There's no stipulation on it whatsoever. All the hype is just because of the 3rd man.
But didn't they do a good job at making you forget there's absolutely no stakes to this match?
Oh yeah, definitely, because it was drummed into you with a sledgehammer.
Yeah. So the match itself, I don't think there's an awful lot to talk about. But anything you want to talk about?
Luger being stretched out
very early on.
So early is really weird.
Why'd you say that's weird?
Because he didn't have any influence on the match.
He was the red herring. They wanted the smart fans to think, "Oh crap, Luger's just come from the WWF. Luger's going to be the 3rd man." He was a red herring.
Oh, so he got stretched out, so people thought he was going to come back. That was what all the hints are about, or he could be in the ring with us, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, get that now. But still don't like it. If that was what they were going to do, then I kind of wish that they'd done the Hulk reveal a bit sooner, because comms were dropping hints like, "Oh, there's a man down for WCW. There was a random ballot drawn to who would do it. Why don't we just replace
somebody
him?"
else out. Yeah.
that would have been a perfect time, as comms have said that, or as Luger's sort of being stretched out, give it a couple of minutes, and then Hulk hit the ring. And
as soon as we see Hulk,
like,
that match is over.
Yeah.
As soon as we see Hulk, the match is over. You could not have a professional wrestling match as soon as Hulk Hogan comes out, because it was such a massive departure of what we expected. This is unlike any heel turn anyone has ever seen, because Hulk Hogan, no one had ever really seen him as a heel. He had been one, but on a national, but on a national stage, they would never have seen him be a heel at all. So nobody would have believed it. So I personally don't think you could have had a match. I think as soon as you see Hulk Hogan turning heel, that's the outrage would be so strong. You'd have people did rush the ring. People threw trash in the ring. I don't think you could have had a match. I think Hogan coming out needed to be, okay, that's the end.
Yeah, so I didn't. There was so much build up for the third man, and then it just nothing happened. It was a 3-on-2, and then it was a 2-on-2, and then even when Hulk came out, I think there was no.
Heenan ruined it on comms for the people at home.
Yeah, Heenan did.
I don't think he did. We'll get into that. I don't think he did, because Heenan had been saying stuff like this for the last 15 years. He'd been saying stuff along the lines of, "Oh, but he'll take cheap shots any chance he can get," and I don't. One thing you need to consider is that none of the announcers knew this was happening.
No.
So
none of the commentary guys.
Yeah, none of the announcers, none of the commentary guys knew this was happening.
So secret, wasn't it? So
I don't think for a second Bobby Heenan thought Hogan was actually going to do it. And I think if he'd have stayed quiet in that situation, I think some of the fans might have gone, "Why is Bobby not saying anything?"
Yeah.
So no, I disagree. I disagree that he ruined anything. To be quite honest with you, I wish he hadn't said it.
Changed my mind a bit on that now.
Do you remember? A few shows ago, I was telling you about King of the Ring 1993, and I was talking about the fact that Hogan did a promo on WWF whilst he was in New Japan, and people have made a big deal out of it since. But at the time, it was part of the course because nobody expected that promo to be seen outside of Japan. Same thing. It wasn't a big deal. It's only become a big deal later on down the line, but at the time, if you knew what Bobby Heenan hated Hulk Hogan, so you expected Bobby Heenan to say, "Well, this will be the third man," without. I don't think it was.
Oh, this is the third man. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I know what you mean.
I understand why you think why you come into this with fresh eyes would think that, but I don't think that's true.
It's hard to remember it as a. Wow, what the fuck happened?
See, I think I understand that it was like world shaking for wrestling at the time, but you don't feel that on the video. Mm-hmm. Like, there's fans throwing stuff into the ring, but there's no like massive swell of emotion from the commentary. You don't seem to see it in the ring. No one's like, "Oh my God, what are you doing, Hulk?"
Well, like you said, you should have had all the other wrestlers come out being, "What are you doing? What are you doing?"
The locker room should have been outraged and come barreling down to the ring, be like, "The fuck are you up to, mate?"
Let me tell you why I disagree. And everyone's entitled to their opinion. I get it. Let me tell you why I disagree with this. If you'd have had the swell of roster members come out, it would look like an angle. The way they did it, commentary almost completely shut up, except for going, "Go to hell, go to hell."
Yeah, he did.
Everything went quiet. It was an extension of that first promo of Scott Hall, which is why I want you to watch that first promo of Scott Hall. It's an extension of that. It's like nobody cares about wrestling anymore. The wrestling has now stopped. The match has been thrown out. This is no longer a wrestling match. This is a situation, and this is an invasion. And I think it is absolutely beautiful the way they did it.
Yeah, because it does
just
disrupt
casually glancing the
everything.
ring, being like, "What's going on, Hulk?" Like it. I don't know.
No, what it is, Gene and Hulk have had such a partnership through all the WWF years. They loved each other. They
were
were
practically
the
best friends.
Yeah, that's why that happened. Because Gene was
There was a
"What the
moment.
hell?"
There was a moment in WWF where Gene Okerlund tagged up with Hulk Hogan,
Yeah.
and he made him a little Geno Mania T-shirt.
They were
That's how close.
on screen. It's
Well, you, Lauren, are coming into this, and you can't, because you know what's going on, and you've seen swerves like this before, and you've seen twists
This
in the
was the
storyline
original
before. This was the
Swerve.
original one.
Yeah, I just think obviously I knew what was coming,
Yeah, that's the problem.
but it wasn't that I wasn't surprised. It was that I didn't. Usually, when you go back and watch something that was like history changing, you still sort of feel it when the story's told right. And I just felt like it just fell very flat for me.
I think
of the way it came on halfway through the match.
For you, I think it felt like the carpet was just pulled under and it just ended. But that's what they wanted. It was the whole show pulled from under your feet, game over.
Well, I understand it from Lauren's point of view as well, because and again, the art of wrestling has changed.
I was expecting such a big emotional thing when actually what WCW were going for was that lack of emotion,
realism of
like what we had when Troy cashed in on Aiton, and like all the energy just left the room. But trying to explain that feeling to someone
who's not seen the story,
not seen it and not felt it is really difficult, and that might be sort of where I'm sitting now, because I know that moment was so pivotal. I'm expecting a height of emotion, whereas actually what you've got is fucking nothing.
The only other one is
everyone's just gone, what the fuck?
I'll tell you though, Lauren, that emotion happened the moment Hulk Hogan dropped that leg. The moment he dropped it on Randy Savage, people watching it at the time, they felt that feeling. But it's very hard to replicate if you weren't watching this in a linear way, and because of all the wrestling you've seen, and that's one of the problems.
Remember,
I feel like the emotion that came out wasn't, from watching it. It feels like the emotion that came out wasn't the anger and the ire that I was expecting. It's a what on earth? Like,
I was going to say, the one I can relate it to for Lauren was when Tate cashed in on Leon at TNT.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the exact feeling when Tate cashed in on Leon, when he got the belt off Dan.
Yeah. So
that's the moment of...
we had that whole thing.
We all just went, the fuck? We didn't get we didn't get over angry. We didn't scream at them. We just kind of went...
That is a very, very good one, because
it was just wrong.
It was Alexis Falcon. Was it Tate?
Sorry, it was Crowley. Sorry. Crowley cashed in and took the belt off Leon as he won it off Dan.
Yeah, I suppose now Gav said that, it does make a little bit more sense in my brain, because that was kind of a similar situation.
Very
it was
similar.
An Alexis Falcon heel turn.
Yeah.
But when she came out...
You had the heel turn, you had everything. Sorry.
When she came out, there was all those questions of, why is she here? Because she'd always been the good guy, but we knew that there'd been beef between her and Crowley had been sort of trying to turn her, but she's always been the hero of TNT. And when she came out and jumped on the apron, everyone was kind of like, what's going to happen? Because Crowley's just going to cash in. Alexis is going to come and like stop him. And instead, she helped him, and everyone just kind of was sat there like, what now?
Yeah.
and then the anger came after.
Exactly that.
I think you see when you see the iconic NWO promo when they've all got the black and white shirts on. So yeah, I suppose my issues with the end of that have been waylaid a little bit now. But watching it as fresh eyes, just that isolated incident, I felt very sort of deflated in that last match. But when you actually look at how it happened and why it happened and when it happened, it really was a pivotal moment in wrestling. And as much as we don't like him, you can never take away what Hulk Hogan, Hulkamania, and the NWO did for the sport that we all love.
No, exactly that. And let's wrap things up now because we are pushing for time. So what do you think of the show as a whole, Lauren? And give us what you would recommend people watch. One match.
It's very 50-50. There was some good stuff, some okay stuff, and some not so good stuff. But the match I recommend people to watch would have to be Psychosis and Ray, because
young Ray,
that was something special.
Sure was. Would you agree with that, Gav?
It was the you watch that match, and obviously we know what happened later on, but you watch it and go, "You're a superstar. You're going to be huge." You just could see it. There was no doubt. So yeah, that's the match to watch. Obviously, the moment at the end, if you are of any age like me and Steve, it was pivotal in your wrestling brain forever. It will never, ever go away. You see the
100%.
NWO shirt and you go, oh, what a... Do you know what I mean?
I'm wearing an Outsiders shirt right now, and I did not buy this for the podcast. I own this, and I've owned it for several years. So massively pivotal. That might not have gone away, but it is time for us to go away. So one more question, Lauren. Do you feel educated?
Definitely. I understand the backstory of the NWO a little bit more, but I will still say anyone who's not of that age to have seen it live and to have watched it without knowing, I feel like going forward, the next time you see NWO and you see them in the t-shirts cutting that promo, that is the pivotal moment for wrestling, because this kind of falls a little bit.
And the wow, all that stuff.
It's I'm glad I understand it, but for anybody else going forward, it's that next promo and that music and that t-shirt that's the change. If you didn't see it live.
Well, from one amazing and historic moment to another, next month's topic is going to be SummerSlam 1992 at Wembley Stadium. But until then, if you want to be involved with the regular show, Primetime Pastimes, and want to talk about your passions outside of wrestling, please let us know. Otherwise, have a great day, have a great morning, have a great afternoon, have a great evening, whenever the hell you are listening to this. Bye.
Bye.